Well, it's official, and boy, were we all wrong about Billy Napier's job status for 2025. Because Scott Stricklin came out with a statement saying that the Gators will remain committed to Billy through the 2024 season. Still 4 games left. Anything is possible, but they have made it clear that Billy Napier will not be fired going into 2025. So what went into this decision? What needs to happen for Billy to prove he is the right guy moving forward? And can they find a way to get an upset down the stretch? Let's go and discuss. Welcome on into SEC Unfiltered. It's Cole Thompson here. Make sure that you like the video. Hit the ring notification down below. That way you're keeping up to date with everything that we're doing on the channel, and smash that subscribe button because we're talking college football every single day. Make sure that you download the podcast version of the show wherever you get your podcast listening systems. Follow us on the socials, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at SEC Unfiltered. Follow me at Mr. Cole Thompson, and check out all of our great work found at SECUnfiltered.com. This episode is brought to you by our friends over at RHOBACK. The holiday season is right around the corner, and what better gift to give someone in your life than a RHOBACK pullover, a RHOBACK polo, a RHOBACK fleece, whatever you see fit. Go to RHOBACK.com and use the promo code SECU for 20% off your first purchase. Dress the 9 on game days. Dress the 9 this holiday season when you go to RHOBACK and use that promo code SECU. Tell them the fine folks at SEC Unfiltered sent you. So, Scott Stricklin's statement, I'm just going to read it verbatim. Gator Nation, I want to let you know that Billy Napier will continue as the head football coach for the Florida Gators. As we have seen these past several weeks, the young men on this team represent what it means to be a Gator. Their resolve, effort, and execution are evident in their performance and growth each week, building a foundation that promises greater success next season and beyond. I am confident that Billy will meet with the challenges and opportunities ahead. We will work alongside to support any changes needed to elevate Gator football as college athletic evolves. UF is committed to embracing innovation and strategy, ensuring that the Gators thrive in today's competitive landscape. So a lot of things I think went into this decision, but let's go back to the very beginning of the year and why we as a society all said that Billy Napier was going to be out of a job. That Miami game gave us really rocky standards moving forward because both Billy Napier and Mario Cristobal were hired at the same time. One team in year 3 looks like they're on a trajectory to go to the college football playoff, maybe even win a playoff game, have a Heisman Trophy caliber quarterback on their sidelines, and they beat the brakes off of them in the swamp, a place that we have been told for years is a hostile environment. And the other team, they looked like a year 1 roster despite going into year 3. It was not pretty. It was absolutely dreadful at times. The miscommunications, the inability to find success on the ground, the constant turnovers, not a game that you want to hold your hat on for Billy Napier. And things got worse 2 weeks later when they played against Texas A&M with a redshirt freshman in Marcel Reed, who was able to lead this team going into halftime with over 200 more yards of offense, and fans were booing the don't drink and drive ads as they were funneling down Michelob Ultras and Miller Lite. They would rather be drunk than hear Billy Napier talk at that point. But then you hear this part. There's one part. Over the last several weeks, these young men on this team represent what it means to be a Gator. You go back and watch, they have. Billy's been able to rally the troops despite people basically writing him off and saying that the inevitable is about to occur. And they get wins. They got a win over UCF. They traveled on the road to Starkville. They got a win over Mississippi State. They played against Kentucky, and they beat the brakes off of them in the new era underway with DJ Lagway. And they were a play or 2 away from winning in Rocky Top against Tennessee, a rivalry that they have owned for years. If they go for 2, and if they don't have the miscommunication on the field goal deep inside their own territory, they probably end up walking away with the dub. And now Tennessee's fighting for its life the rest of the year. And that might be enough for Scott Stricklin to say, we feel really good about this team. They also played really confidently against Georgia. Now, I'm not saying that you take that win and decide, or that loss and say 14-point loss with no DJ Lagway, with no Graham Mertz. We're going to accept defeat, but we also see the light in this team. I'm not saying that at all. And I'm not saying that Florida shouldn't have a higher standard than fighting for bowl eligibility, fighting for 7-5. It's Florida. It's Gainesville. It's the swamp. It's I won't back down. It's history for over 2 decades with Steve Spurrier and with Urban Meyer, and the consistency of them winning at a high esteem level alongside Alabama, alongside Georgia, and surpassing teams like LSU and Tennessee. That's Florida. But at the same time, when your backs were against the wall, you saw what this roster was made of. No Montrell Johnson, no Trey Wilson, no Graham Mertz, no DJ Lagway, multiple defensive players out. Yet it was at one point with 5 minutes and 43 seconds left, 20-20. I don't accept participation trophies or moral victories. But what I will say is when you play the schedule built straight out of hell, if you show up against the number one team in the SEC and have that type of performance, you better hire a person who's going to get better results than that. And the crazy part is that when you look at this season going into next year, they're probably all saying, well, Billy's not the guy. Billy, he hasn't shown us he's the right guy. Right. But here's the part that people always seem to forget about. What happens when the schedule is flipped next year and a new guy comes in and you have more instantaneous gratification? You expect more from the dude that you plucked away from a Power 4 program that was maybe in the hunt for a college football playoff for the next 2 years. But they still play Texas. Just instead of going to Austin, they play at home. They still play A&M. But instead of playing at home, they go to College Station. They still have matchups against Ole Miss and LSU because the only thing that's changing is the location. The schedule stays the same next year. That's the thing that I think people forget. You're expecting a new guy to come on in and magically transform this program, this gator chop, this mentality overnight, where it is literally impossible if you have the same type of players. And I'm not saying that they can't go out and add in other recruits. I'm not saying they can't go out and add in other transfers, high-profile names that will build around DJ Lagway, build around this offensive communication, have some receivers that take that next step forward, and Aiden Mizell, depending on the status of Trey Wilson, he could be in for a breakout year next season. But the new guy coming on in is still going to have a flawed roster. But you expect 8-4, 9-3. So if you're just already wondering if you can just wait one more year knowing that this is going to be the make or break moment in Florida football history, why are you going to pay an egregious buyout this year to then bring in somebody who within 2 years with an already losing record, potentially in year one, to have the fan base lose their mind once more? So I understand where Scott Stricklin comes from. And I understand that Billy Napier is an innovator. He's a guy that wins on the recruiting trail. He does a good job of invoking fans, invoking players to get to the next level. There is a sheer leadership aspect about Billy that is very clear inside that locker room. And it's things that we're never going to see. And there's things that we're going to hear. And at most, we're going to believe that things can maybe turn the corner because of who is Billy and how those players show up. But you're tired of seeing yourself say, well, we got to win over UCF. Oh, we got to win over Kentucky. We made things really close against Georgia and the world's largest outdoor cocktail party. We went down to the wire with Tennessee. That's not Florida football. Florida football is we decimated UCF. We clobbered Mississippi State. We beat the brakes off of Tennessee. And we made sure the dogs went crying home with the nail back to Georgia in the world's largest outdoor cocktail party. And maybe we lost to LSU, but we're 11-1 and we're in the college football playoff. That's the expectations that should be set by Scott Stricklin, by the boosters, by the fans. That's what we as college football aficionados love about the sport. So if Billy can somehow get to that level, okay, then you know that Scott Stricklin made the right call. Because Scott Stricklin, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, is also laying his job on the line. If you are a Scott Stricklin supporter, he ain't going anywhere this offseason because they have a ton of other things going on behind closed doors at the University of Florida to where he technically can't be fired right now. There would be a whole bunch of other stuff that would have to happen for Scott Stricklin to be also packing his bags out in Gainesville. But you have to build off this season. You have to. DJ Lagway is the most important player. And I'm not saying that, again, DJ Lagway was the deciding factor in this. He was talking to people in his camp and going, well, if Billy leaves, we're leaving. Okay, well, let's just hold out for another year. I'm not saying that at all. But what I am saying is DJ Lagway is the most important asset to your team. And if you're able to keep him around, keep the NIL prosperous, and start seeing players who are sitting on the fence between maybe a South Carolina or a Florida, maybe a Kentucky or a Florida, and they realize that number 2 is going to be their quarterback, he's going to be the star throwing them touchdown passes in the swamp as Tom Petty in the fourth quarter, I won't back down, starts playing that atmosphere on game days. They may say that's good enough. I know that there's a future here. I know that I'm going to be in a great situation. And Billy's done that so far. He continues to win on the recruiting aspects, and I think that they'll go out and they'll be aggressive when it comes to the transfer portal. There will not be a roster reconstruction like there was when Dan Mullen left and Billy came on in. It will actually be beneficial for that standpoint. But they got to continue to build. They have to make sure that DJ Lagway, who brought Gatorade back to Gainesville, is the number 1 asset. And whatever works in his favor, that's what you hold on to. The other thing that you have to wonder is that you have to set realistic expectations for next year. You can't be saying, well, we brought in this player, this player, this player, this player, and this player. That means we got to go 10-2. No, you got to get to 8-4. You got to get to 7-5. You have to have a top 25 scoring offense. You have to have a top 50 defense. You have to be exceptional on third down. Those are the markers that you have to set to prove that Billy is the right guy. Not college football playoff or bust, because you've already lost this battle before you've even won it. And the other thing that's really important here, and probably the most important, you got to be patient. If you are a Florida fan, you have to be patient, knowing that this is what is about to unfold. You have to. Because if it's one thing to say, yeah, Billy Napier, we're going to keep you. We're going to keep you at the end of the year when maybe they play extremely close against against LSU, where they play extremely close against Ole Miss, or maybe they pull off an upset this weekend against Texas. Those things can happen. And then you say, well, now we're going to keep Billy. But what you did was, before the Texas game, a game where you don't even know if DJ Lagway is going to play, and you may have to turn to Aiden Warner as your starting quarterback. Hey, he's here. So now you have to be patient. And that part is a lot easier said than done. We as a society, just in general, can't stay still. It's why we created fidget spinners back in 2017. We can't be patient. But you're going to have to be Florida. You're going to have to let him work the rest of the season. You're going to have to embrace a close call against LSU. Maybe a total beatdown against Ole Miss. Maybe a game that is finally won because of Florida State. It's just awful. You have to accept that. And then you have to go to the offseason and be okay with what they're adding in. Who are the transfers that they bring in? Who are the recruits that they believe in? Who are the players that they think can be a part of this foundation set by Billy Napier and Scott Stricklin? And if that happens, well, then maybe the results will speak volume too. But the other part, and this is where I'm speaking only to those who decided on this decision, you cannot pull a Scott Frost. You can't. You are committed to Billy Napier. You made it clear that you were committed to Billy Napier. And I don't want to hear after 2 games into 2025, nope, we made the wrong call. Because if you made the wrong call, then you're making the wrong call now. But unfortunately, you invoked it. You spoke it into existence. You made it clear that Billy is your guy. So now he's got to be your guy for the next 4 months of the 2025 college football season. It is not just a end of November, we'll reevaluate things. It is now a 13-month plan before you finally decide, Billy, you're not the guy for the job, or Billy, we're giving you a contract extension. That's it. So you have to be patient with the results on the field, because if you're not going to be patient, allow Billy Napier to build the roster, get a couple of games underneath his belt with new players, recruits, transfers, high-profile personnel, get the staff and the team on the same page, then you might as well just rip the Band-Aid off now and put on a fresh new one. That's it. That's what you should do. But now, because of you have committed to Billy, you have to be committed to Billy, and you got to be patient. So go out to the transfer portal, bring in the right players, go out and make sure that you continue to win on the recruiting trail, be patient, and let the results speak for themselves. Me personally, I would have waited until November, because I would love to see what this roster looks like after what happens on Saturday down in Austin. I would love to see how this team will respond depending on the situation that occurs moving forward with everyone potentially entering the transfer portal. I would love to see how this team continues to grow, and that might be fine. We may be all undermining Billy Napier right now. We could. And I won't go as far to say that I believe that Florida is not ready to win today. I won't. What I will say is that even though I would have waited, you best prove in these next 4 games why you are the right head coach. Because fans, they're tired of waiting for it. Players, they're tired of hearing the same excuses. Boosters, they don't want to wonder, well, we had a tough schedule. Tough luck. Get over it and move on with your life. At this point, Florida has just got to show that there's consistency. If they can do that, you put themselves in the right situation, maybe this is the right call. Scott Stricklin is laying his ass out on the line. So is Billy Napier. Ultimately, at the end of the day, depending on how next year starts, will be the way that their tenure finishes. Let me know in the comment section down below. What are your thoughts about Billy Napier coming back for another year? Like, rate, review, subscribe. Follow us on the social channels, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at SEC Unfiltered. Download the podcast version of the show wherever you get your podcast listening systems. And follow us wherever you see fit at Mr. Cole Thompson. Plus, check out our great work at SECUnfiltered.com. I'm Cole Thompson from SEC Unfiltered. Gator Nation, be patient. It will be okay. Peace.